Okay, we have just left executive session. It's 5:51 p.m. No decisions were made during the executive session. Um, and Ellie, at your opportunity, if you could reach out to Jose and let him know it's safe to join again, please. Okay, nominating committee. I don't know. Shannon, can you speak on this, or is there someone else should?
I'm actually going to turn it over to Justin.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Shannon. So the nominating committee, consisting of myself, Ben Scoldra, and Mike Sheets, and of course with the help of Shannon, we've completed our work after confirming that all current executive committee members are willing to continue serving. We unanimously recommended nominating them to the existing slate for re-election. Would you like me to read the names? I'll go
Please.
ahead. Yes, Steve Huffaker, I'm trying, of Ferrisburg. As chair, Shannon Haggett, Virgin's delegate. Vice chair, Nancy Cornell, Starksboro at large. Zapata Courage, Ripton at large. Saital, Cornwall at large. And if I recall correctly, the full vote will take place at the May annual meeting on the 12th. We're happy to take any questions if y'all got them.
Questions for the nominating committee?
I would also just like to point out that we do also take nominations from the floor, both tonight and at May.
Well, this is probably a good opportunity to ask if anyone on this call would like to tender their name as a participant in the executive committee. Okay, for now, we'll leave it as is. Thanks so much for your nominating committee for your efforts. Let's move on. Bylaws revisions. We can attack this two ways. My preference would be, since I sent out to everyone revisions and justifications several weeks ago, I'm hoping that I don't need to bring up the bylaws on the screen again. And since I had not received any feedback on it, I guess perhaps I'll entertain anyone to make any comments or express any concerns about the bylaws changes. And then if it turns out there are none, then I'll ask for a motion to accept the revisions, again with an understanding that because of the nature of our bylaws, those bylaws are not yet accepted. They need to be voted on a second time at our annual meeting. Does anyone have any comments or questions about the changes to the bylaws?
Comment, they seem straightforward, and I'm prepared to motion that we go forward.
Excellent. Is there a second? Cool. Yep. Is that Ross's second?
Well, Ross had a question, actually. Excuse me.
Yeah, we need to get through the. Let's first get through the motion.
Finish your
and then
motion.
we can have discussion.
Hopefully, I can make a comment.
So yes, did you hear it? Ross did second it.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a motion and second for the changes to the bylaws. Discussion. Sounds like Ross, you'd like to discuss something?
Yeah, about section 24, the conflicts of interest ethics. It states there that the code of ethics is outlined in 24 VSA 1995. But when I bring that up, that's only the ethics training. It looks like the code of ethics is actually chapter 60, and it includes looks like 9 different sections from 1991 through 1999. So I'm just want to confirm whether that VSA citation is correct.
Sharon, can you speak to that?
I can't tonight. I'm out of town. I don't have anything on my system here with me that I'd be able to speak intelligently about that.
I was able to bring up the code on just.
No, I mean, I don't have the conflict. I don't have the proposed amendments to the bylaws here on my system.
Here they are.
Okay,
Wanted to say I've just Googled the Vermont statutes online, and Ross is absolutely right. So it's the entirety of Chapter 60, Municipal Code of Ethics.
okay, well, we could make the change to push it to the right citation.
Yeah, can I make a motion?
Sure.
I would, yeah, I'd like to change that 24 VSA 1995. I don't know if it should be either chapter 60, title 24, chapter 60 of 1991 through 1998, I guess would be the most comprehensive way of putting it.
And then, sorry to interrupt, Steve, but then Carl would need to accept the friendly amendment, and Ross, who seconded it, would have to accept the friendly second amendment, and then we could move forward.
Right. So if everyone is in agreement with Ross's catch, we can still vote to approve all the changes to the bylaws with the change that had recommended by Ross. And it's considered a friendly amendment at this point. And the way that we can include it is that if Carl is the person who tendered the initial motion, Carl, are you willing to accept that friendly amendment?
Nodding yes.
Sorry, yes, I love the amendment.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And what we can do is Shannon's very conversant in working on this document as well as our other documents that we post on our website. We will ask Shannon to kind of make a revision to this section 24, and then we will distribute it to everyone shortly. It'll be well before our annual meeting, so that you get a chance to take a look at it and comment on it as appropriate.
I'm back home next week.
Okay. Any other comments?
The only other thing is that when I was looking through it, it noted that we would have to be trained every 3 years, everybody on the commission. And someone would have to be a liaison to the state ethics commission. And so we should be probably thinking of who's going to take on that responsibility. Just stuff like that.
Let me comment on that, and I think Ellie might want to weigh in as well. When we took a look at this a while ago, my reading was that officers needed to be trained every 3 years, and that there was an individual in our organization who was responsible for tracking those trainings and then reporting to the appropriate authority in Montpelier. It was not for all the governing board members. It was officers, which is limited to a handful. I believe it's the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk, I think, Ellie.
Yeah, we read it as the officers, and then, I mean, it does say here that municipalities should make a reasonable effort to provide training to all other municipal officers. I mean, I think Ross has made a good point, which is that we should actually have a close reading of the statute and make sure that we understand how to operationalize it.
So we could either make the change as proposed by Ross and then work internally to communicate the necessary information to all the governing board members. And as we did this, we were under time pressure to do this in the first place. I think we had like a month to get this all done. And so we did appoint Ellie as kind of the officer handling the reporting on who was being trained and who wasn't. So I expect that Ellie can continue to fulfill that role. And then at that point, we can also add a discussion perhaps at our next executive committee meeting how to broaden this so that all the governing board members have an opportunity to participate in the training. There's an online training session. It's pretty painless. So are we good to proceed with the change that that had been proposed by Ross and approved as a friendly amendment by Carl? Any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the changes to the bylaws as discussed today, including a friendly amendment, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thanks, everyone.
I just wondering, Steve, weren't we supposed to vote on the amendment first?
The friendly amendment was incorporated into the motion and it was
Okay.
approved by
Okay.
Carl. So it's all one big package.
Great.
Okay. We gotta get going, folks. All right, bylaws revisions, procurement. Ellie, could you talk to us about long drop canvassing and drop design?
Sure. So there were two procurements that were approved by the executive committee, and I wanted to I wanted to let you guys know on the governing board for two reasons. Well, I mean, one of them is just awareness. So I'll go over what they are and then why we did them. So the first one is the affordable drop program canvassing. So we have the affordability programs updates later on in the agenda, but just to give a headline, we have not had a very good response to the affordable drop program to date. We've been doing a lot of outreach and a lot of messaging in pretty much every marketing channel you can imagine. And to date, we have 12 people that have signed up and been validated. We've had interest of people who were BEAD addresses and interest from people who are in WCBT service territory, but our grant application is for 168 and we have 12. So we wanted to, or I suggested that we take urgent action to get that number higher, because if we're going to have a grant amendment for a lower amount, we need to be doing that sooner than later for a whole whack of reasons, not the least of which is to make sure that funds can be returned to other CUDs that might have greater demand. So as a result of that, and we've also been talking about doing door-to-door canvassing for some time. So as a result of that, I reached out informally to a couple different entities to provide us with proposals around going door to door. And the executive committee authorized me to move forward with that. And so we're going to be doing that essentially as soon as we can get the paperwork signed and the collateral printed and everyone trained. And so we'll do that, and we're going to assess and see how it goes. And so the reason I'm bringing that to your attention here is that because essentially just for the purposes of speed, I didn't go through the process of putting out a full RFP. And so the amount that we're able to spend on this canvassing is $30,000. If we get to the point of having spent that and we want to extend it, then we will either do an RFP or, some other procedure. So I want to let you guys know, first of all, know that that's happening, because it's going to be happening in your towns. We're going to be going door to door, and also just to let you know that if we need to have an increased amount of budget for that, then we might need to come back and be talking about that. And it wouldn't need to come to the governing board, because the executive committee has procurement approval up to $250,000. But again, just for awareness, I wanted you to know. The second one is drop design. So as you all know, we're currently working with an engineering firm called JSI, that they're doing our mainline design for Middlebury and Ripton for the portions that we're going to be building as part of the BEAD program. And part of what they're doing there is they're actually doing an engineering design of the customer locations that we're passing, because the previous engineering firm that we used, Vantage Point, they didn't do a full-on engineering. They essentially did a desktop engineering of what they thought is the way to connect a subscriber's premises to the mainline fiber. But as a result of never having done a full field review and a full engineering of those drops, what happens is when someone places an order, the first thing that happens is that Waitsfield needs to send a truck out there. They need to roll a truck out to the premises to have a look and see what the situation is and see how to connect it. And it's a cost. It is a time delay in terms of getting customers connected. It adds a friction point. And so this has been kind of a thorn in our sides for a long period of time. And so to make a long story short, had a conversation with the executive committee to say, let's while we have JSI here doing other engineering work, and also while we have ARPA money that we need to make sure that we spend this year, let's get them going on this. And so the executive committee approved that. And again, the executive committee has approval up to $250,000. In the event that we think we need more money than that, we would need to bring this back to you guys for approval. So don't know at this point. I'm still working on refining the list of addresses because we don't want to be spending money on surveys to garages and barns and hayfields and graveyards and so on and so forth, as well as to be doing drop design in areas that have existing fiber service that we don't plan to build in the foreseeable future. We can always go back and do that later. So I'm trying to make sure that we have the right list of addresses. So we have, I've signed that statement of work actually earlier today, and I'm working on getting a list of addresses. So I want to let you guys know that's in progress as well. Anything to add, Steve? You're muted.
My recollection, which could be flawed, but my recollection was that part of what you're going to do is kind of set some priorities. Like, for example, I think you had said perhaps begin working around Virgins, for example. And I think so, so the way I see it, and I haven't really discussed this with the executive committee, but it seems to me that, we have a new member. Oh, no, they go. We're going to, Ellie is going to direct the engineering company to get the lowest hanging fruit possible in their survey work, and Ellie will be making the decision of what constitutes low hanging fruit. So one way one might look at is that if for some reason they run through the money that we've approved, we may not need to approve it because all the stuff that really matters may have already been surveyed. So I guess that remains to be seen, but what we are going to be prioritizing areas that are most likely to yield, future connections to our services.
Yep. And one other thing, which is actually a good point, is one of the other reasons for doing this is that with the Affordable Drop Program, we're trying to get another 150 or so in the pipeline ASAP. And I was concerned about the availability of staff at WCBT to be scouting those in a rapid area. So if we go canvassing and then we have 20 or 30 that need to get scouted in a week, I thought that might be a problem. I spoke to Waitsfield and they said, yep, that would probably be a problem. We're not quite staffed to be able to have that rapid of a turnaround. So that's part of the understanding as well, is that the affordable drop addresses, that people that express interest that haven't already been scouted, they're going to go to the front of the list. So there's a little bit of inefficiencies involved in that, but really are focused on trying to get this affordable drop program filled up. Okay, shall I move on? Other updates?
Please.
Okay, BEAD. So I think the biggest update I have on BEAD is we had a really good meeting with the Vermont Community Broadband Board and RSM, which is their consultant that's working on the permitting. Because if you will recall, one of the things I've been talking about for a very long time is that we're not allowed to start any construction for mainline or drops or anything on any of the BEAD addresses until we have received the NEPA sign-off. And so we had a great meeting with them to understand better what that process looks like. And I think I also explained that procedurally we plan to divide our project area into 4 separate NEPA projects. One which is for the Virgin serving area, one which is for the Middlebury and Salisbury and Leicester, and one of which is for Ripton, and then the 4th one is for the WCBT serving areas. So we talked all that through, and they have given us some instructions about how we provide the addresses that we want to go into each of these so that they can get that set up. So it was a really good meeting. There's some more work that still needs to happen, and I think that probably the one big piece of work, in addition to just understanding what all is required to be able to get that NEPA sign off, is that we have our list of anticipated permits for each of these areas. So I compiled the list for our 3 NEPA project areas, and Waitsfield compiled for theirs. And so, I mean, like, a lot of these permits are known to us. If we're going to be digging on a town right of way, we need to get the town right of way. If we're going to be crossing a railroad, we need to get a railroad crossing. And obviously for wetlands, we need to follow the proper wetlands permitting procedures. And so NEPA is essentially the federal environmental and historic preservation law. So the part that we are less familiar with is specifically around the wetlands permitting for NEPA. What exactly do we have to do to be able to indicate that we've done enough engineering and design homework to understand if a wetlands permit is needed or not? So the NEPA doesn't say you have to have all the permits in hand. It says that you have to have done enough diligence to understand the process required to get all the permits, and you have to submit evidence of that. At least that's my understanding. So again, I'm learning more about this as we go along, but I was quite encouraged by that meeting, and in particular with the work that the VCB and RSM had done with the state agencies, with the Agency of Natural Resources and the State Historic Preservation Office, so that they understand the BEAD program and they understand the urgency of rapid turnarounds on these. So, Steve, you were at that meeting. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Okay. So that's that, because that's obviously quite important, that's critical path for us starting any construction. Other than that, we are continuing to work with JSI, our engineering firm, to do the detailed design for Middlebury and for Ripton, as well as to work on the bill of materials for what equipment that we want to put out requests for quotes for, most notably the BABA compliant fiber optic cable. And in relation to that, I also have Vantage Point, our old engineering firm, prior engineering firm, having a look at the areas that they designed to make sure that they separate for some of the bead routes are what's considered bead middle mile, and some of the assets in those routes can be charged to the grant and some cannot. So making sure that they go through unit by unit and tell us how many feet of BABA compliant versus non-BABA compliant cable we need. So basically we're working through design, procurement, and permitting.
Yeah, and as before, since there are some ongoing steps that are necessary before we can really do construction, as Ellie just described, we're taking pains to contain any RFPs, requests for proposals, or requests for quotations in such a way that we have an opportunity to include language in there, either not do anything. Like, for example, we're talking about issuing an RFP for cable right now because there are concerns about fiber cable availability nationally. And so one of the things Ellie and I have talked about is put out an RFP, put a high level estimate on how much cable we're going to need. Ask the distributors to tell us what the availability is for materials and whether it's BABA compliant and what's the turnaround. And that will inform us on what we need to do and when. And we don't need to proceed on that. We can issue an RFP and we get that all information together and we can kind of keep it in our back pocket, and then we can take action when we see fit. So a lot of the actions we're engaged in right now are kind of testing the waters, make sure we understand what we need to do and when we need to do it going forward.
Yep. And the other comment on that there is that we obviously, for BEAD procurement, we're not going to want to be signing any construction agreements until we ourselves have a signed grant agreement. But we do have ARPA funding that we need to spend by the end of this year, as I keep saying. So I had an introductory meeting with the executive committee last week talking about some of my preliminary analysis and thinking about how to do that. I have more homework to do, but I just want to let you guys know that we do have money to spend this year. There will be construction this year. And the looking like at this point, we're going to start with the ARPA construction because it has to get done, and then we'll move on to the BEAD construction. So that makes just concerns about how long it takes to get the BEAD agreements less of a consideration than it would be if we were kind of sitting here not able to do anything while we were waiting on that. Okay, is there anything on BEAD, or can I move on? I want to make sure we have time for everything. We have other things.
Yeah, let's move
on the agenda. Okay. All right. So affordability programs, as of today, we have 12 people confirmed for LEAF, and we have, as I said earlier, we have 12 people that have signed up and been confirmed for the Affordable Drop program. So that's what's going on there. And then leading into marketing, as I said earlier, we have had a lot of marketing outreach. We've had ads in the Addison Independent. We've had ads on Front Porch Forum. We've had multiple sections in newsletters about these affordability programs. probably other things, digital marketing I'm not even thinking of. We've done a lot. We even have a temporary banner on our website right now, which is announcing the affordability program. So it's not going to be there forever, but it's up there now just to make sure that we raise awareness of this. And so in addition to that, I mentioned last month that we are planning a launch of a program designed for nonprofits whereby they get our fastest speed at our lowest price, because there's a lot of benefits for this. There's mission alignment between what we're trying to do with the nonprofits, potentially some very good PR that could come of that. And it is another way of giving back to Addison County. And if you think about a typical nonprofit, they don't have a big budget anyway. So I would rather make sure that we get their business rather than them sticking with a competitor. And especially as we start to move through Middlebury, whenever it is that we're able to start the bead construction through Middlebury, there's a lot of registered nonprofits through there. So we've been working on the launch plan for that. We're actually planning to start with the public relations announcement and then move into the marketing of it. And the final thing is, and this actually relates nicely to the canvassing we're going to be doing. So again, we're focusing the canvassing on the affordable drop program to get people signed up for that program. But we have talked for a very long time about just how interested we are in seeing how well the door-to-door does. And so this is going to be a test. If it does really well, then we could potentially extend it to other addresses. I mean, there is a reason our competitors go door-to-door. So it's going to be quite interesting to see where we go from this. And we are, in the meantime, while we're starting our canvassing with the affordable drop program, we're planning to be doing a mailer that goes out to all of the addresses in our active service areas that haven't already signed up for service. So a physical mailer, because we've been doing a lot of digital marketing, but we haven't necessarily been doing a lot of physical mailing marketing or door-to-door. And then we're obviously also getting into the summer season when we're going to be having events and tabling opportunities for governing board members, as well as potentially for members of the public that we might want to train up. And I should also say, I think we kind of glossed over it earlier, but Ashley here happens to, for those of you who haven't met her before in her capacity as one of the founders and principals of London Middlebury, our marketing firm, she's actually been working to drive this. And so she's now going to be the delegate from Moncton. So we're going to be having the benefit of someone on our governing board who also has a deep familiarity with Maple Broadband. So obviously, we'll introduce her properly next month when it's our when we have new board members as well. But just, again, wanted to flag that for anyone that's here. Any questions or concerns on marketing? And Ashley, by the way, if you want to add anything, you're a delegate now.
No, I appreciate it, Ellie. That's great. And as a soon-to-be official delegate, I'm always happy to have conversations around marketing suggestions to bring to our marketing firm, and hopefully find a way to implement those. So I look forward to those conversations. Thanks for having me.
Ellie, would now be a good time to talk about installation charges?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Steve. So one of the things actually was Ashley's suggestion is that, or it came out of a conversation where we were looking at some of the potential print ads, and it was really hard for us to be positioning the affordable drop program saying, well, it's free except for our standard installation fee. And that the wording of that was always a little bit tricky, especially in relation to our competitors who typically offer free drops. And how do we talk about the limited time program that's covering the costs that a lot of customers don't even necessarily know our costs, and saying, well, it's a $0 installation except for this fine print, which is actually $150, seems like a little bit of a bait and switch. So after discussion around that, we thought, in the context of the affordable drop program, be a lot easier, again, we're trying to get another 150 of these, just to say, well, we're going to waive the installation fee for them. But then you don't want to create a lack of parity where the installation fee is waived for people for whom we're also giving other financial assistance and putting conduits in their lawn, and not for other customers. So the recommendation that I brought to the executive committee the last time we met was simply to waive the installation fee for a couple of months. I mean, specifically until we either get the affordable drop program filled up or not, but we're also kind of going to see how it goes. So we're going to use that as well to just generate some urgency around switching over to Maple Broadband now versus later, because we're waiving it for now, but we could change our minds at any time. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors.
Rich,
Rich,
you're muted,
you're
Rich.
muted.
I'm sure you're aware of this, Ellie, but I just want to put in my 2 cents to make sure. I think you should have a clear deadline when the free installation expires, so that, a lot of things I see don't have a clear deadline, and I think that's a shortcoming.
Ashley, something you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to this group, when you said tell your friends, tell your neighbors, that a way that governing board members can also support on the marketing front is following on social media. That is like one of our weaker areas and an area that we haven't really invested in growing because we're focused on other channels. But as we are really trying to get out the information about the affordability programs, a shift that we're going to have in some of the May content is we need you to tell your friends and tell your neighbors to support and to follow us on social, because there's a lot of we want to get this free money into the hands of the people who are eligible for the free money. And at this point, we need the community's help to get this word out as much as possible. So Justin, you are an all-star on Instagram for sure, and some other names that are familiar, but just would love to plug that to the group here.
And just to acknowledge Rich's comment, I think that's something we'll definitely talk about. Like, we may want to put a limit of like time or quantity, whichever comes sooner, and then just make sure we're really clear if we're approaching that, because you don't want people that are disappointed, and we'll always have the flexibility to extend it to people who complain about it or who just got installed a week ago. And we've talked about some of this with WCBT as well. Okay. I'm going to move on to finances, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay. I'm gonna have to make this a little bigger. Whoa, not that big. 400%. Sorry, that is not readable. Okay. All right. So here is the dashboard. So most of you have seen this before. So this is showing where we are from a cash perspective. And again, the numbers I want you to focus on here are these. This is the amount of money that we have in ARPA that needs to be spent this year. I have been through a number of scenarios, and I know it's over $1 million. Trust me, I have no concerns about our ability to spend it this year. So as a matter of fact, I wish I had another $1 million. So we're going to be working on that. So you'll be seeing those numbers go down as we get through the rest of the year. And is there anyone have any questions on this one? Okay, we're fine from a cash perspective. So operationally, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. We are sitting at almost $200,000 total revenue year to date. We are still sitting at the same mileage with service that we were previously. Our last couple of miles, which is required to get us over the threshold to close out our construction grant, are this close. It's just been, I don't know, it's been maybe the weather or something, but it's taken a while to get the final set of test results for all of the splicing. So hopefully we'll get the good word very soon and can switch that up, but not quite there yet. And I think we have, since I'm talking about that, I'll also just give the update that we have been in contact with Luckgrove, which is the VCBB's inspection firm, to be giving them the maps and the materials and the test reports and the as-built for everything that's been built, with the exception of this last couple of miles where they're going to be getting the physical red lines. But it should go live very, very soon. We had 9 new installations last month, and we are sitting at 600. We were at 672 active subscribers at the end of the month. And yeah, this was reflecting. I've also added in here the leaf recipients. At the end of last month, we were at 10. So we're now at, there's now 12 that have qualified, and then they'll see that on the next bill. Any questions on this? Okay. The final thing I'm going to show you quickly is this is the budget to actual, because we are sitting in our first meeting after the close of the quarter. The quarter was through March, and we're sitting here in April. So there's not really too much to note here. I think we're pretty much as expected in terms of the budget for revenues, and we haven't had any income from grants this quarter, but that's not necessarily unexpected. That is lumpy based. I mean, you have a big invoice when you hit a milestone. And then on the operating cost side, this is all essentially as expected. I think the only things that I wanted to highlight are there's a couple of costs, like our 1-800 number. This is a big win for me that I've now got this hooked up with our credit card so that that's going to happen automatically and we won't have to chase our friends at Waitsfield in arrears to be able to get this every quarter, because from a cash perspective, we spent $0 last quarter. Obviously we had costs. It's about $100 a month. So I'll just be happier. I'll be happier when that's a little bit more automated. And then similarly, if you look down here under repairs and maintenance, we actually had a credit of something or other. But in actual fact, I'm sure that we had some repairs last quarter. We just haven't received our invoices from Waitsfield yet. But other than that, there's not really anything on the budget to actual. If we had more time, I would go over it in more detail, but there's really nothing here which is particularly noteworthy, according to me, except I guess for the fact that we've spent more money on design already, like double than what we've budgeted. But I think that just reflects the fact that we've thought about things a little bit differently than when we were doing our budget. And I've said back last year that just we may wish to consider at some point a formal budget amendment when we understand better what's happening with BEAD. So we don't know that yet, but just want to put that out there. Like we may wish to do that later this year. Any questions on this? Okay. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and move on to the audit then. Is Lynn here? Has Lynn joined? Lynn, you are here. Lynn, do you want to give the budget or the audit update? You're muted.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So the good news is we're actually very close to wrapping up the audit. We've seen the draft. We had some questions and yeah, thank you, Justin. I'm clapping too. I think it's real progress. So anyway, we just asked for some additional backup information. And we received that, and Ellie, myself, and Darlene just need to look at that and together, and then we will be taking the draft audit and the audit RFP to the Finance Committee next week. I think we're meeting on the 23rd of April. Yep. And so I think we are on schedule for presenting the audited statement at the next meeting. Right? We would do that at the next meeting. Yeah. So yep. Doing that on time this year with the audit. So yeah, feel like that's progress. And yep. And there aren't any big surprises in this audit that we just did. I mean, it's been a lot of work the last few years, or last two, looking back. So anyway, I think this is good news for Maple Broadband. Yeah. And that's it. So you'll get to see that audit statement, and there'll be a letter for this committee from the auditor as well. Any questions about that? All right. Terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yep.
Moving right along, we are reaching the end of our agenda. I think we've covered all the updates I have the energy to cover. I don't know that we have anything else that we've excluded here. Ellie, is there anything that we need to cover at this point, or can we move on to adjournment?
I think we should probably just talk about what's going to happen in the next meeting a little bit. So the next meeting is the annual meeting. So in that meeting, obviously, we're going to be having an election of our officers for next year. As previously discussed, we're going to be, if all goes according to plan, which I think it will, we will be presenting the audit for approval and then submission to the Federal Clearinghouse. And The final thing is, per our financial policies and procedures, we review the financial model and the financial plan twice a year. So once is is when we're preparing the initial draft of the audit, and then once is for the annual meeting. So we will also be having not necessarily a review of that financial model, but a summary discussion of current projections given what we know. And again, we think we know some things, but we still have no idea, for example, when we're going to be able to actually break ground on BEAD. Hopefully it'll be at some point this summer if we get a grant agreement on that time frame and if we get the NEPA sign off. So I will be making my best educated guess as part of that analysis. And so that should be a very interesting meeting next month. So look forward to seeing you all there. And thank you all for coming. It's great to see such turnout at this meeting. So I look forward to seeing you all next month and having a similar turnout, because we'll be having the second vote of the bylaws. So it'll be a big meeting next month. So please come.
Excellent. Excellent. Next meeting, annual meeting, May 12. After that meeting, we will be moving our governing board meetings to the third Monday of the month. And I'm sure we'll talk about that and remind you of it in a month. I'll entertain a motion from anyone here to adjourn, we can kind of move on with our evenings. We got several motions. That's good enough for me. Thanks everyone for your time. See you in a month.
Everybody.